by now we all know that Christie Sides has been fired as Indiana Fever coach. It seems extremely likely that Stephanie White is going to take over. But Sides still being talked about, and I'm not critical of that. I mean, some shows tape later. They're not like in the instance. So it's still a topic to discuss. For the most part, the reaction from everyone involved or fans of the Fever has been positive, and thinking about this being a serious move for the organization. That's what I've said too. I've defended Christie Sides, don't get me wrong, but I still think this is the move of a serious organization and ultimately a move that helps improve their immediate future standing. And I think Stephanie White's a better coach. I think obviously had Caitlin Clark wanted Christie Sides to be around, she would still be around. Some of the stuff that Christie Sides did was much more, I guess, in the macro than the micro. It's not like I'm sitting there and pointing to specific coaching moves that she did. It's more about the fact that they had this one record and then they had a better record. And I think that's where anybody that is taken aback from her firing is coming from, capturing that spirit of, oh, wait a second, the Fever hadn't made the playoffs since 2016. They started 1-8. They made the playoffs. How could you fire the coach? Right? Like, I think that's the spirit where anything critical is coming from. I do find it interesting that no Fever player has said anything. Maybe they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't know. But no Fever player has said anything about the Sides dismissal. But something was said about Christie Sides on Elle Duncan's podcast, and it's probably the most critical of this move that we've seen thus far.
If you look at Indiana in particular, to make the postseason after not making the postseason since 2016. And you also have to think about the development for the players. I mean, this is now another coach that Caitlin Clark, I immediately joked and was like, Lisa Bluter is going to come out of retirement. Caitlin Clark, Iowa coach, and she's going to go there.
She's right down the street. I mean, she's pulling up to all the games anyway.
She right there, you know what I mean? Ain't nothing to just slide her a little clipboard. But again, you're talking about a team that really started to catch fire towards the end of last year. And now they're going to go through another coaching change. And, for Leah Boston, that's going to be, her second coaching change. This will be the same thing for Caitlin Clark. So, you just wonder how much you're stunting their potential development or growth, or at least delaying it by bringing in a new regime. But I've got to believe that they've got some plan here. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to sprinkle just something real quick before we move on to the next topic is when you have Caitlin Clark on your team and everything runs through her franchise-wise in large part, obviously the WWE's growth. I don't think Fever Brass make that change without Caitlin Clark signing off. So if she did sign off, or at least say, hey, do what you got to do, is that an indication of a little bit of trouble in said locker room? And that's why they let her listen. If Caitlin Clark was like, that's the coach.
I mean, that's the point I was making. So I don't disagree with what he's saying there. Elle Duncan, I do disagree with what she's saying there. So many different superstar players have seen a coaching change do a big thing for them. Doug Collins was the coach of Michael Jordan at the beginning, then not the coach of Michael Jordan. Phil Jackson comes in, all this winning happens. LeBron James didn't win with his first coach. Magic Johnson didn't win with his first coach. They showed all that in the Showtime series, or Winning Time series, I'm sorry, on HBO. So like these things have happened. Steve Kerr coming into Golden State. It's not like the Warriors were an epic failure before Steve Kerr came in and took over and things changed for Steph Curry and company. So there is a precedent for a team performing relatively well, but the organization going, you know what, we still think we can upgrade at coach, and then that upgrade taking things to an entirely new level. So I think there's a bit of a reflexive reaction from someone like Elle Duncan there to say, hey, they improved. They made the playoffs. How could you possibly do this? And then there's probably also, and I'm not saying with her specifically, but I think it's out there, an element to be critical of things that happen around Caitlin Clark. To me, I think the majority opinion is correct. And I commend the Fever for having the guts to do it, because it's not, it is a move that takes a certain level of intestinal fortitude, because they're not wrong. No one is wrong to point out that the Fever did get better under Christie Sides.